we'll get Bernie Kosar here, who joins us on the Toyota of Hollywood guest live shot. Hundreds of Toyotas indoors in one of America's largest showrooms at Toyota of Hollywood on 441 between Hollywood and Sheridan. Bernie Kosar joining us here on the program once again. Bernie, what's going on?
Good morning, guys. Good to be with you.
Hey, Bernie, you tried to do it by yourself this morning? You tried to do it by yourself this morning?
Yeah, I'm technology challenged in the Ohio snowstorm right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is Udonis Haslem Day, Bernie. We're very excited for him. A Miami legend like yourself getting a chance to get honored like that. And just always a hard worker. Like, I mean, anything that ever just stood out to you about UD and his time with the Miami Heat?
His longevity and his leadership absolutely are two things that jump to mind right away. But then just not longevity and leadership. When he got on the field and on the court, he actually produced. And he produced consistently over multiple decades. So as a guy who is proud to say I played 12 years in the league, I can't fathom the physical toll that UD went through and all the productivity that he's brought to the Miami Heat. And then to be there for one place for his whole career. It's an honor to say I know him, and it's awesome of you guys to be doing shout outs to him today.
So Bernie, the Dolphin season came to an end this week. It was a tough one to watch in those frigid conditions. What were your impressions of that KC Dolphins game this past week?
So it brought back a lot of memories of playing in a couple of games that were minus 20 wind chill. I was chuckling at the first couple segments you guys had today, that between the Dolphins and the Browns games last week, that on a football Friday, we were talking about Brustello coffee and bacon wrapped around what we're going to do for our Super Bowl festivities. So half of that is good for your health and wellness. I'm not sure about the other half. I'm going to work on you guys on some of your bacon choices and some of your eating habits as we do this journey together, my brothers.
So, Bern, one of the things that, I try to tell people, because we're so quick to label somebody as not the guy, right? And fans are impatient. Organizations get impatient, but how can you possibly justify getting rid of or even suggesting you get rid of a guy who led the league in passing?
Right. So I am, and I know we could do and coming here from Cleveland with some of our lack of success this century, the Dolphins and Tobes, we were talking or listening to you talking the first segment about being 24 years of a playoff drought and stuff. And some of the ramifications that goes with the quarterback that comes along with those expectations and that streak, unfortunately, continuing. But I'm all in on Mike McDaniel and that staff. I really love it. And I love what Tua has been able to do. And with him leading the league and throwing, like Leroy, you're mentioning right there, being the AFC Pro Bowl starter, that type of conditions this past weekend in Kansas City. I know we have to be ready for those type conditions, but I'm not sure any quarterback right now would be fair to kind of put them up against that, given the conditions the other day. And I just know myself, I started preparing for games like that in January. And Leroy knows I was annoying about going out in October, November, in the bad weather and getting used to it. And you could see Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, Travis Kelce and those guys, the benefits of practicing in that miserable, hellish weather day in and day out paid dividends for Kansas City at the detriment of the Dolphins and then / Tua. And now Tua's getting a lot of these type questions, but I think the synergy that him and Coach McDaniel have and the level of taking it to the next level of his throwing this past year, I actually love the way he really didn't miss any plays because of injuries last year. the concussion thing that I was one of the guys that was bluntly and privately concerned for his health and wellness, to see him kind of get through a year like that. And then, unfortunately, in that horrible condition of frozen fields the other day, he did take some hits. And I do love how, he judiciously ran throughout the season, and with the play calling and running, stayed away from that. But as the season went along, and even in the KC game, you saw Tua using his legs some and then taking a couple of hits. And I'm not saying it's good he took a couple hits, but he did take a couple hits and didn't end up with the concussion issue and stuff. So as punishing as that game was, and as challenging as maybe some of the people are on Tua right now, I really like the growth he had through the course of the season. And careful what you wish for, okay? Because change for change's sake, if you don't get it right, and we here in Cleveland have been challenged of trying to get the quarterback situation right, again, most of this century, and I don't say that as a shot, as somewhat of a joke, but it's actually accurate. So I feel the same way with Tua and Coach McDaniel now, kind of growing into the next year. But if I could add, it's imperative, look at the mess that Dallas and Jerry Jones is having with Dak Prescott's $59 million contract. There is a balance right now. Chris Greer with 29 free agents and an inordinate amount of free agents, unfortunately, for the Dolphins on the offensive line and Wilkins on the defensive line. Okay. But that offensive line free agents, there's a direct correlation to the success of us quarterbacks like Tua and myself. Well, we absolutely need our offensive line and guys like Leroy to help our overall game.
I want to kind of about that, Bernie. It is such a team game. Leroy always kind of gets on me that I'm too quarterback obsessed, but you guys know the burden of that. You're the face of the franchise. You're on the commercials and everything. So, what is that like being the face of the organization, knowing that you'll probably get an inordinate amount of blame, but you'll get all the credit? How does a QB like Tua at his age, everyone's going to say, he's not the guy, you're not this, you're not that, knowing that it is such a team game? What's that, I guess, mental tug of war like for a QB?
So it's great question. It's from a speech perspective, we're going to say the right things. We're going to say it doesn't bother us. We're going to say that it isn't a factor. As a young guy, deep down it is. So it's imperative that, yes, you say the right thing, but there's exponentially a massive positive influence when your head coach and is all in on you. And I love how Mike McDaniels never wavers when he talks about his love, confidence, belief in Tua, not just as a person, but as a quarterback and player. And although we say we don't need that type stuff, when your coach really buys into you and your coach really believes in you, that creates not only a synergistic work environment, but it creates that positiveness in us. And Leroy, we joke about how I like to be positive, and I really do look at it through my sunglasses of positivity. That actually amplifies our confidence. And again, we're trying to all pretend we're cool. We're all trying to pretend we have all the answers and nothing bothers us, especially us quarterbacks when we're playing. But deep down, there is some doubts and there is some anxiety that goes with that. And with those doubts and with that anxiety, when it creeps into your head, it's hard to pull the trigger. And one of the things, Tua, was exceptional with this year was his ability to just let it rip over the middle of the field in that 12 to 18-yard range where it's over the linebacker's head, but before the safeties decapitate Tyreek Hill and the receivers. That's not easy to do. Yes, that's easier to do in a South Florida environment. It was miserable to do in a Kansas City snowstorm, but that's the anomaly, the latter. And I think the way he's been able to have that confidence and that belief, there's a direct correlation to kind of the love and trust that Coach McDaniels and that staff gives him.
Isn't that something? Who's been saying that all year? Let me look around.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, Bernie says it, and
Yeah,
you're like all in.
Hey, well, Leroy, actually, and again, I want, as an old guy here, sitting here, I want everybody to look at me as super confident, super awesome quarterback that always had good results and stuff. But Leroy, you came into the league and came into the Browns, and in a part of my career where I was coming off some really good years.
Yeah.
Okay, I had a couple good years, and I had some good coaches. I had really good coaches my whole career, but different mannerisms and different ways of leading and coaching us. And bluntly, I like to say that I was good no matter what. Okay, so as you look behind me, I got the life-size Bernie in the Browns.
I love it.
With a really emotional hat that my grandfather wore for the Hurricanes Nebraska game for the 1983 National Championship. And that confidence and belief that Howard Snellenberger, that Jimmy Johnson showed me, that belief in me absolutely led to me being such a belief. And I don't want to say cocky, but you need a level of arrogance and cockiness to believe that you're the man and you're able to go out there. And I'm super proud of my college career and the first part of my pro career. But towards the end of my pro career, especially in Cleveland, Leroy is firsthand a witness to some of the things that happen when a quarterback doesn't have all of his confidence and doesn't have all his belief from his head coach. And I'm not trying to pick on Coach Belichick or some of the things that happened with me, Leroy, early in his career. But I actually was not as good as a quarterback as I needed to be because and I wouldn't admit it to Leroy. I could barely admit it in the year 2024, but a little bit of that limited confidence, limited belief in myself, sadly correlated to the field, and the productivity wasn't there like I liked, like I wanted, like I needed. And I see the antithesis in Miami right now, so I commend the organization. I really commend Mike McDaniels and that staff for that belief and confidence that they show in Tua. And like to Leroy's point, he led the league in passing. So sometimes we use the phrase F&E, false enthusiasm, false praise, just kind of getting it to stroke our ego so that we believe in ourselves. I genuinely believe that Coach McDaniel and that staff genuinely believes in Tua. And that comes across in him being confident to let that ball go because he throws it early. And he throws the receivers open. And that's not the norm coming out of college. And that's not the norm for even a lot of NFL quarterbacks that Tua already confidently possesses.
You and Leroy were both talking last week. One of the things that kind of worried you with the Texans was that they were going to be too ignorant to know what states
my goodness.
Bernie, that's CJ Stroud. Oh my God. How far you think this guy can take? I mean, they got a monster matchup this week against the Ravens, but like, does this guy blow you away? Like, you think you could, like, they could actually pull this thing off?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, absolutely yes is the short answer to that. And even last week, again, I'm a big homer as I'm rooting for the Dolphins, the Browns, the Canes. But the way CJ Stroud plays as a rookie, he's been had an amazing season. Had an amazing game, unfortunately, and he is just gifted and talented. And I actually think, and I love Lamar Jackson, and I hate to say it here in Cleveland, but the Baltimore Ravens have more old school Cleveland Browns people within their organization. So I have somewhat of a kindred spirit towards a lot of the Baltimore guys because I know a lot of them. And Lamar Jackson, who I love, but he's had some playoff demons. And again, we're just talking about confidence and belief. And we're going to say it doesn't bother us. I know myself. I lost my first playoff game in 1985. And then 1986, I'm playing in another playoff game. And I throw 2 picks back to back to blow the game. My confidence was poor. If I go on to lose that game, okay, who knows how that confidence and belief in myself materializes. Lamar's the NFL MVP. Lamar, though, has had some games in the playoffs where if he starts out a little rough, that demon, that seed of uncertainty could pop into his head. And CJ Stroud and their offensive coordinator, Bob Slowick, they're on game right now. I mean, they diced us with that game plan. And then his ability to execute that game plan was really Picasso-ish. And I'm a massive Browns fan that does not want to give much credit to the Texans.
Are you amazed at how young he is? Not only how young he is, but just how calm and nonchalant he was making these plays, like no big deal. That's terrifying if you're watching football and you're a fan of the other team. Like, you can't break this kid.
Yeah, absolutely. And even after the game, the way he deferred and deflected all the praise to his guys and to his teammates and to his organization, to see in the heat of the moment during the game. And again, I used to pretend I wasn't excited. I used to pretend I was stoic and cool and the leader. Inside, I was jumping up and down and fired up when he'd get a big touchdown like that. And to see CJ Stroud just matter of fact, it look cool, look mature out there. The veterans on that team and the young guys on that team, that's absolutely the influence. That's absolutely the leader that you want for your team.
Bernie, speaking of leaders, this Mario Cristobal did it again with getting Cam Ward to the U. Like, it seemed like he was going to go to the NFL, then all of a sudden, rabbit out of his hat, he's got his quarterback. Just your impressions of Mario Cristobal being able to continue to pull it out with these crazy recruiting pitches. Transfer portals changed some things, but like it's got to infuse a lot for that program, the excitement that they feel like they got their guy after having some issues with TVD last year.
God, do I love you guys. I feel like I was in the production meeting and I asked some of the questions to talk about this. Can we, and not being biased with my grandfather's University of Miami national championship hat on behind me, but for Mario Cristobal, and again, I know a lot of people say the transfer portal has confused and ruined the game of football or college football on the hat. You need to embrace change. And University of Miami and Mario Cristobal, we've embraced change. And to be able to go out there and financially compete with anybody, to be able to get players and stuff, and then to not take no for an answer, and then also to constantly be wanting to improve ourselves. So whether it's the guys around us, but again, I'm super biased as an ex-QB. The QB is where it starts and finishes a lot of the time. And to get Cam Ward from Washington State, 25 touchdown passes last year, 7 interceptions. Heck, he ran for 8 touchdowns. I don't think I got half that amount in my whole NFL career.
No,
so
you did not.
Leroy, don't be so quick to agree with that. But
hey, that was the first time you ever yelled at me because I thought I was blocking for you to run.
Oh, I know. And that's how you got all those touchdown catches.
Yes.
Exactly. Hey, and for Cam Ward, who could actually run on top of massive arm talent, I'd love to see the interjection of him with the talent around him and his experience right now. So, the way he has that athleticism, the way Mario Cristobal is loading up with the talent around him, I really think from a Canes perspective that this is something to take us to the next level. Now, one of the things I'm really fixated on in just about any offense right now, college or pros, and we struggled in the Browns game the other day, and I was struggled at the end of my career thinking I had to be cool. I had to have 5 receivers. I had to spread everybody out. I only had to do 5-man protection. I'm Mr. Shotgun. I'm Mr. 2-minute drill. There's absolutely, I love that. Absolutely, you need to be able to do that. But Jim Harbaugh, the Michigan the national championship, I'm not saying this is a stroke, Leroy, but congrats on that type system. The running game's imperative in the NFL with the play action game in the NFL and in college, and it's moving more into college too. So I'd like to see a little more interwovenness or interjection of a little under center, maybe some of the run game type play action stuff, because what I'm watching with teams with continuity, consistency, and in toughness, and again, I'm maybe a little biased because on 4th and a half a foot on the half-yard line going in, I think it's tough to always be in the shotgun. So some of that stuff maybe we could add, and now you have a veteran quarterback like Cam Ward with awesome athleticism. I think that combination really plays well together.
He's the great Bernie Kosar. Go check out KosarCoffee.com. Leroy's been telling us about it this week.
I've been telling you.
Yeah,
I'll get you some.
Yeah, I'll get you some. I'll get you some swag and stuff too.
All right,
and Tobes, I heard you talking about Cafe Bustelo on the way in. The awesome Miami company that was good friends, and that's actually started my coffee fixation over a decade plus ago. The Pallone family in Miami, who started that and brought that to an awesome level. And the black coffee bean to be able to flush and detox our liver and brain. And I find it ironic that a great Miami espresso coffee like Bustelo was actually bought by Smuckers, and it's up here in Ohio now in this massive snowstorm. So we actually need some more coffee right now.
Gotta keep yourself warm, Bernie. Absolutely. Check it out, KosarCoffee.com, and on social media at Kosar Coffee. You guys have been hearing the Bernie talk about it, Leroy raving about it. Go check it on out. Bernie, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Before I go, though, I got to say I'm going to help work with you guys. I love your Super Bowl diet and stuff, but we're going to add a little bit of, besides the Kosar coffee, we're going to add some Kosar wellness to you, as I want to see my brothers hang out with me another couple decades and slamming down being the bacon testers all over the world. It's not gonna add to your longevity, guys.
Totally fair. Totally fair. We'll take a break. Right. More after this.
Love you guys.